students. Today we'll study the introduction part of the development of cardiovascular system. So in this, our specific learning objectives are that you should be able to describe the formation of cardiogenic area or the cardiogenic field, and you should be able to describe the formation of heart tube with its three codes, that is endocardium, myocardium and epicardium. Then you should be able to describe the positioning of the heart, that is its textual looping, and then you should be able to describe the formation of transverse sinus. You should be able to describe the formation of a cardiac loop and what are its abnormalities. So firstly, the introductory part. So the cardiovascular system, it is derived mainly from the splanchnic mesoderm. So if you remember, this was the neural fold. Uh, Nearby it was a para-axial mesoderm, then was the intermediate, and lateral to it was the lateral plate mesoderm. These are the clefts which are appeared, uh, which will form the intraembryonic cilium. It will split this lateral plate mesoderm into somatopleuric, which is towards the ectoderm, and splanchno-pleuric mesoderm, which is towards the endoderm. So splanchno-pleuric mesoderm will form the primordium of the heart. Then the para-axial, apart from the splanchno-pleuric mesoderm, the para-axial mesoderm and the lateral plate mesoderm near the otic plicodes will also contribute to the formation of the heart. The otic plicodes will form the internal ears. And then the neural crest cells. The neural crest cells were the cells which were appearing near the neural groove. So these will also contribute to certain parts in the heart. So there are three sources from which the heart is being developed, that is the splanchno-pleuric mesoderm, the para-axial and the lateral plate mesoderm, and the neural crest cells. So then the establishment of the cardiogenic field. So there are three processes which leads to the establishment of the heart field. That is firstly the migration of the cardiac progenitor cells. These will migrate from the splanchno-pleuric mesoderm. Then there will be formation of cardiac myoblast under the influence of the underlying endoderm, the foregut endoderm, which is lined by the endoderm, and then the formation of the dorsal aorta. So we will take one by one all these three events. So firstly, the establishment of the cardiogenic field. So the vascular system, it appears in the third week, in the middle of the third week. So cardiac progenitor cells, they first lie in the epiblast. This is the bilaminar germ disc, or you can say the trilaminar germ disc, and this is one was the primitive streak. Now the cells of the epiblast just lateral to the primitive streak will migrate inside and they will form the cardiac progenitor cells. They will migrate through this primitive streak. Now the cells which are destined to form the cranial segments, that is the truncus, the outflow tract, they will migrate first. Okay? And the cells forming the more caudal portions, that is the right ventricle, the left ventricle, the sinus venosus, they will migrate sequentially. So the cells forming the heart will migrate in a cranio-caudal fashion. Now the cells proceed towards the cranium and position themselves rostral to the oropharyngeal membrane. So the oropharyngeal membrane was the point ahead of the procaudal plate where the ectoderm was closely adherent to the endoderm. Okay, so the cells, they will proceed towards the cranium and they will position ahead of this oropharyngeal membrane and the neural folds. Now they will here reside in the splanchnic layer of the lateral plate mesoderm. So this one is the splanchnic layer. So they will come to reside over here. Over here you can see this one is the cardiogenic area. You can see this is the neural fold, this one is the underlying foregut, and this one is the endoderm. So this one is the lateral plate mesoderm. Here is the intra-embryonic cilium being formed. This one is the splanchnic mesoderm. So the cardiac progenitor cells, they will come and they will reside in this splanchnic mesoderm. So on both the sides, they will come and reside. Now they are induced by the underlying Pharyngeal endoderm. Pharyngeal endoderm means the endoderm which is this lining this foregut. Underlying pharyngeal endoderm to form the cardiac myoblast. So these cardiac progenitor cells, they will come to reside in this splanchnic mesoderm. Further, the cells of the splanchnic mesoderms under the influence of this pharyngeal endoderm will form the cardiac myoblasts. So now over here you can see the proper cardiac myoblasts are being formed. The cardiogenic field is being developing over here. Then is the formation of the third event is the formation of dorsal aorta. So the blood islands, they will appear in the mesoderm. So over here this one is the mesoderm. So blood islands, they will appear in the mesoderm, and the vessels will be formed by the process of vasculogenesis. So if you remember, there were two processes, the angiogenesis and vasculogenesis. So the formation of the blood islands and then fusion is the vasculogenesis, and the sprouting is angiogenesis. So with the time, these islands, they will unite and they will form a horseshoe shaped endothelial lined tube surrounded by myoblast. Okay, so this region, horseshoe shaped region, is known as cardiogenic field. The intraembryonic cavity, this one is the longitudinal section. So intraembryonic cavity, which is over it, will later on develop into the pericardial cavity. This section is shown before the cephalocaudal folding. So this one is the oropharyngeal membrane, and the cardiac progenitor cells, they have come to lie in this splanchnic mesoderm. It is ahead of this oropharyngeal membrane, and over it is the pericardial cavity. Now over here you can see this one is the blood islands which are developing into the mesoderm by the process of vasculogenesis, and they will unite and they will form the dorsal aorta. Then is the formation and the position of the heart tube. So initially the central portion of the cardiogenic area is anterior to this oropharyngeal membrane and the neural plate. Now with the cephalocaudal folding, because there is a formation of the forebrain vesicle, so after the closure of the neural tube, there will be the formation of the brain will start, and the central nervous system will grow cephalically so rapidly, so that it has to undergo cephalocaudal folding. So because of this cephalocaudal folding, uh, it extends over the central cardiogenic area and the future pericardial cavity. Over here you can see it is extending over this cardiogenic area, and finally because of the result of the growth of brain and the cephalic folding of the embryo, the oropharyngeal membrane is pulled forward, and the heart and the pericardial cavity, they will move first towards the cervical region and finally towards the thorax. So the heart will move from cervical region to the thoracic region along with its pericardial cavity. Now then comes the formation of the outflow tract and the inflow tracts. So as the embryo folds cephalocaudally, it also folds laterally. So this one is the overview from the top. Okay, there will be a crescentic cardiogenic field will be formed, and then the apart from cephalocaudal folding, there is a lateral folding also. So the two limbs of the heart, they will fuse craniocaudally. So as a result, the caudal regions of the paired cardiac primordia will merge except at the caudalmost area. The caudalmost area fuse nahi hote hain. So simultaneously, the crescent part of the horseshoe shaped area, this one is the crescentic part. Over here in this area we are viewing it from front. तो ये crescentic part है, ये उसके दो limbs हैं. तो दो limbs बाद में fuse हो जाएंगे. ये crescentic area है which will form the future outflow tract and the ventricular regions. So the heart becomes a continuous expanded tube consisting of inner endothelial lining and an outer myocardial layer. So it receives its venous drainage at its caudal end, and it begins to pump blood outside to the first aortic arch. This over here will be the aortic arches into the dorsal aorta at its cranial pole. So it has a caudal pole which is inflow tract and an outflow tract above it, that is cranially, which will pump its blood into the dorsal aorta. Then is the formation of transverse sinus. How the transverse sinus is being formed? This one is a lateral view. So the developing heart tube, it bulges more and more into the pericardial cavity. ठीक है, जो pericardial cavity थी उसके अंदर वो bulge करने लगेगी. Initially pericardial cavity was lying above it. Because of the cephalocaudal folding, which comes to lie below it. Now, however, the tube remains attached to the dorsal side of the pericardial cavity by a fold of mesodermal tissue. Okay, so this one is known as the dorsal mesocardium. There is no ventral mesocardium. ठीक है, तो उसमें ventral mesocardium कभी भी नहीं था. Dorsal mesocardium was there initially. Now, with the further development, the dorsal mesocardium, it disappears and it creates a transverse pericardial sinus which connects both the sides of the pericardial cavity. So now the heart is suspended in the cavity only by the blood vessels, that is through the dorsal aorta and through the caudal end. So this is how, because of the absorption of the dorsal mesocardium, the transverse sinus is formed. So the heart tube, it has three layers. First was the endocardium, forming the internal endothelial lining of the heart. Then was the myocardium, forming the muscular wall, and the epicardium or the visceral pericardium, covering outside the tube. Now, the outer layer is responsible for the formation of coronary arteries, including their endothelial lining and the smooth muscle. So this is important, that coronary arteries, they are originating from the epicardium of the heart. So how the epicardium is formed? So during these events, the myocardium, it will secrete a thick layer of extracellular matrix, which is rich in hyaluronic acid, that separates it from the endothelium. Okay. So in addition to this cardiac jelly, it is some mesothelial cells. Now this was the heart, this is a longitudinal section, this one is septum transversum. So there are certain mesothelial cells which is situated in the septum transversum, which will form proepicardial cells near the sinus venosus, and they will migrate over the heart to form most of the epicardium. And the remaining of the epicardium is derived from the mesothelial cells of the outflow tract. So the mesothelial cells residing in the septum transversum forms the proepicardium, which will be forming the epicardium of the heart, apart from the extracellular matrix which is secreted by the myocardium. Then is the formation of the cardiac loop. So heart tube, it continues to elongate and bend on 23 days. So initially it was an elongated tube because of the lateral folding, and then this, because of the cephalic folding as well, there will be a bending of the tube as well. So cephalic portion of the tube, this one is the cephalic portion, it will bend ventrally and caudally because of the cephalocaudal folding towards the right, and the atrial portion, that is the inflow tract, the atrial portion, it will shift dorsocranially and towards the left. So this is known as dextral looping, that is the cephalic shifting of the cephalic portion or the ventricular portion towards the right and ventrally, and the atrial portion towards the dorsum and cranially. This is the dextral looping. So this bends create the cardiac loop. So now over here in the C part, the cardiac loop has been formed and the heart begins to beat at day 22 to 23. So looping is completed by 28th day. Now the primitive heart tube dilation. So there are 5 primitive heart tube dilations. So from cranial to caudal, they are known as truncus arteriosus, which will form the outflow tract. Then is the bulbus cordis, which will form the right ventricle. Then is the primitive ventricle, which will form the left ventricle. Then is the primitive atrium and the sinus venosus, which will incorporate into the atrium. So these 5 dilations will undergo dextral looping and develop into an adult heart. So what is the end result of the looping? So what is the aim of the looping? It is to bring 4 presumptive chambers of the future heart into a correct spatial relationship with each other. अगर लूपिंग नहीं होगी तो बाकी के सारे चारों चेंबर्स साथ साथ नहीं आ पाएंगे. And in addition to that, the craniocaudal flexure facilitates cardial looping by helping to bring venous एंड आर्टीरियल पोल्स क्लोजर. तो वीनस जब लूपिंग होगी तो वीनस और आर्टीरियल पोल्स यानी कि इनफ्लो ट्रैक्ट एंड आउटफ्लो ट्रैक्ट दोनों पास पास आ जाएंगे. सो दैट इज नोन एज कन्वर्जेंस. सो dextral looping aligns these two canals through looping. So what are the process in the dextral looping? That is early looping, then is the convergence, and then wedging, that is fixing it into its original position, and then finally repositioning, that is पूरा dextral looping होता है in which it is shifting towards the left, and finally it is dextral looping, that is when it is looping towards the right, and then whole of the heart will shift towards the left side after all the chambers are being formed. So this is repositioning. So these all 4 events these are the end results of looping. Now, how the atria and the atrioventricular canals are being formed. So atrial portion is initially a paired structure, as there were 2 tubes, and because of the lateral folding they were coming close to each other. So but the caudalmost part was failed to fuse. ठीक है, वो फ्यूज नहीं हुआ था. तो इनिशियली दे आर पेयर्ड स्ट्रक्चर. सो जब पेयर्ड होंगे सो दे विल बी लाइंग आउटसाइड द पेरिकार्डियल कैविटी. Over here in this diagram you can see these are the 2 paired structure. This one is the pericardial cavity. So they are lying outside this pericardial cavity. Okay, so after the fusion they will form a common atrium, and it is incorporated into this pericardial cavity. So atrioventricular junction, it remains narrow and forms the atrioventricular canal, which connects the common atrium and the early embryonic ventricle. Now the bulbous cordis, it is a narrow except the proximal third. This one is the proximal third. Okay. This portion will form the trabeculated part of the right ventricle. So the proximal portion of the bulbous cordis will form the trabeculated part of the right ventricle. The primitive ventricle is going to give rise to the left ventricle. Now let's come to the conus cordis. So the mid portion, the conus cordis, will form the, so this one was the common atrium, this was primitive ventricle, this was the bulbous cordis, then comes the conus cordis. So mid portion of the conus cordis will form the outflow tract of both the ventricles. Okay. So distal part of the bulbous, this one is the distal part of the bulbous. The truncus arteriosus, this one is the truncus arteriosus, will form the roots and proximal portion of the aorta and the pulmonary artery. Okay, and the junction between the ventricle and the, this one is the ventricle, the junction between the ventricle and the bulbous cordis, it is represented externally by a bulboventricular sulcus, and it remains narrow. So initially it is called a primary interventricular foramen. अंदर से अगर हम देखेंगे, as you can see it over here, so this is initially narrow and it is known as interventricular foramen, the bulboventricular sulcus internally. Okay. So how now the primitive ventricles are being formed at the end of loop formation? The smooth walled heart tube, अब इसमें क्या हुआ, blood flow start हो गया, blood flow बहुत तेजी से आ रहा है, so it will cause the walls to form trabecules. ठीक है, they will be eroded and they will be forming trabecules. So end of the loop formation, the smooth walled heart begins to form primitive trabeculae in 2 sharply defined areas just proximal and distal to the primary interventricular foramen. This one was the primary interventricular foramen, which was externally represented by the bulboventricular sulcus, the portion which is adjacent to it. Okay, it will form the trabecules. So the bulbus temporarily remains smooth walled. The primitive ventricle, which is now trabeculated, is called the primitive left ventricle. And likewise, the trabeculated proximal third of the bulbus cordis will form the primitive right ventricle. So primitive ventricle trabeculated form part will form the left ventricle, and the proximal part of the bulbus cordis will form the right ventricle. Now the shift of the conotruncal segment. Now because the blood flow has started and it has to accommodate into the pericardial cavity, now the conotruncal septum, okay, the conotruncal portion of the heart, which is initially on the right side of the pericardial cavity, shifts towards the median position, that is towards the left. So now it will change. This change in this position of the conotruncal segment will form two transverse dilation into the atrium. So it will bulge on both the side of this conotruncal section, and now they will form the two atria, that is the left and the right atrium. So there are abnormalities of the cardiac looping, which is known as dextrocardia, in which heart lies on the right side of the thorax instead of the left. This is the normal looping, which is towards the left. If it loops towards the right, it is known as it will lead to the formation of dextrocardia. So instead of, so जो shift होगा वो अब फिर left की तरफ ना होके towards the right हो जाएगा, ठीक है. So the dextrocardia will be formed. The heart will be found in the right side. So it may coincide with the situs inversus. So over here you can see the heart instead of left is found on the right side, and the it is associated with situs inversus, which occurs in one out of 7,000 individual, which is associated with normal physiology, but there is a slight risk of other heart defects. In other cases, sidedness is random, such that some organs are reversed and others are not. So this condition is known as heterotaxy, in which some organs are reversed in their sidedness and some are not. Now this is a gross look over the longitudinal section of the heart after the cardiovascular system is formed. This one is a beating heart. This one is a tube. This one is the outflow tract. This one is the inflow tract. This is before the looping. Okay. So this is the inflow tract. So over here you can see there are two ends, two horns, the left and the right horns of the sinus venosus. Okay. तो जो लेफ्ट और राइट हॉर्न्स है उसमें विटेलाइन वेन भी आएगी, अम्बिलिकल वेन भी आएगी, एंड द कार्डिनल वेन भी आएगी, कॉमन कार्डिनल वेन्स. ठीक है. सो दीज आर थ्री सोर्सेज ऑफ द ब्लड विच आर टेकिंग कैरिंग ब्लड टुवर्ड्स द हार्ट. दूसरी चीज आपको ये याद रखनी है, जो भी ब्लू पोर्शन है, दीज आर द आर्टरीज. Initially before the birth, arteries are carrying blood towards the heart, and the veins are carrying the oxygenated blood towards the heart, and the arteries are carrying the deoxygenated blood away from the heart. ठीक है, ये बात हमें याद में रखनी है. Then the development of the sinus venosus. So this is only the two horns we have considered over here. This one is the left horn, this one is the right horn. ठीक है. तो राइट हॉर्न में हमारी कॉमन कार्डिनल वेन खुल रही है, अम्बिलिकल वेन, एंड द राइट विटेलाइन वेन, एंड सिमिलरली द लेफ्ट विटेलाइन, द लेफ्ट कॉमन कार्डिनल, एंड द लेफ्ट अम्बिलिकल वेन. ठीक है. सो इन द मिडल ऑफ द फोर्थ वीक, द साइनस वेनोसस रिसीव्स venous blood from the right and the left sinus horns. Now each horn, it has got three important veins which I've told you: the vitello-intestinal or the omphalomesenteric vein, the umbilical vein, and the common cardinal vein. So at first, communication between the sinus and the atrium, it is wide. Okay. Soon, however, the entrance of the sinus shifts towards the right. Okay. So this shift causes primarily by left to right shunt of the blood. तो क्या होगा? इनिशियली क्या होगा? राइट टू लेफ्ट टू राइट शंटिंग होगी ब्लड की. क्यों? क्योंकि सेप्टम ट्रांसवर्सम में लिवर भी फॉर्म हो रहा है, वहाँ डक्टस वेनोसस एक चैनल है जो कि सारा जो लेफ्ट साइड का ब्लड है उसको राइट साइड में शंट करना स्टार्ट करेगा. ठीक है. से इसलिए लेफ्ट टू राइट शंटिंग हो जाएगी। तो जो हमारा लेफ्ट हॉर्न ऑफ साइनस विनोसिस है वो अपनी इंपॉर्टेंस होता जाएगा, राइट हॉर्न ऑफ साइनस विनोसिस हमारा बड़ा होता जाएगा। ठीक है, सो दिस शिफ्ट इज कॉज्ड प्राइमरली टू by the left to right shunts of the blood which occur in the venous system during fourth and fifth week. So I've told you why this shifting, this shunting of the blood is there, because of the formation of ductus venosus which will shunt blood from the left to the right horn. तो लेफ्ट हॉर्न लूजेस इज इम्पोर्टेंस, राइट हॉर्न बड़ा होता जाएगा हमारा. So what is the remnant of the left sinus horn with the obliteration of the right umbilical vein? क्योंकि right to left shunt हुआ है तो right umbilical vein bypass हो जाएगी, left vitelline vein भी obliterate हो जाएगी. ठीक है, so what is left? The left common cardinal vein, it is obliterated at 10 weeks and all which remains is the oblique vein of left atrium and the coronary sinus. So what are the remnants of left sinus horn? These are the coronary sinus and the oblique vein of left atrium. Okay, so this was the fate of left sinus horn. Now there is septum spurium. What is septum spurium? तो दोनों हॉर्न्स थे, राइट एंड द लेफ्ट हॉर्न, उनके भी वाल्व्स थे. तो दोनों वाल्व, राइट वीनस वाल्व एंड द लेफ्ट वीनस वाल्व, they will unite cranially and they will form a septum which is known as septum spurium. ठीक है, so as a result of left to right shunts of blood, the right sinus horn and veins enlarge greatly. The right horn, which now forms only communication between the original sinus venosus and the atrium, is incorporated into the right atrium to form smooth walled part of the right atrium. ठीक है, ये right atrium है, ये left atrium है, right sinus horn बड़ा हो गया, उसका smooth part it is incorporated into the right atrium. It will form the smooth part of the right atrium. Its entrance, the sinoatrial orifice, is flanked on each side by a valvular fold, the right and the left venous valves. Dorsocranially, these valves will fuse and they will form septum spurium. Now, what is the fate of the right venous valve and the left venous valve? Okay, so initially valves are large, but when the right sinus horn is incorporated into the wall of this right atrium, the left venous valve and the septum spurium, they will fuse and with the developing atrial septa. The left venous valve and the septum spurium, they will fuse with the developing atrial septa. The superior portion of the right venous valve, it will disappear. So this one is the superior portion of the right venous valve, and the inferior portion, it will form the valve of the inferior vena cava and the valve of the coronary sinus. Now another thing is crista terminalis, which you see in the right atrium. So it forms a dividing line between the original trabeculated part of the right atrium, and this is the smooth wall of the right sinus horn. So right sinus horn is going to form the smooth part of the right atrium. The crista terminalis is the line dividing between the smooth part and the trabeculated part of the right atrium. And the left sinus horn, left venous valve, it fuses with the developing atrial septum. So what are the points which you have to revise? The cardiogenic field, it is mesodermal in origin. Heart tube is formed with the 5 dilation, the truncus arteriosus, which will form the outflow tract, pulvis cordis, which is forming the right ventricle, primitive ventricle giving rise to the left ventricle, primitive atrium giving rise to the left and the right atrium, both trabeculated part, and the sinus venosus, the right horn, which will form the smooth part of the right atrium, the left horn of sinus venosus will form the coronary sinus, and the left oblique vein of left atrium. That's all. Next class will be on the formation of atrial septum.